This newscast is brought to you by Qberg, Pittsburgh's source for LGBTQ plus news and community information. To learn more about Qberg, visit their website at qberg.com. From the PEP Radio Newsroom, these are the stories we are covering today. The Washington Blade is reporting that several hundred people took to the streets of D.C. on Saturday to protest the Trump-Vance administration's policy proposals and executive orders targeting the transgender community. The Transgender Unity Rally, organized by the Transgender Unity Coalition, began outside of the U.S. Capitol with speeches and continued with a march to the White House. Speakers at the rally included activists and organizers, as well as Georgetown University professor Chloe Schwenke. Schwenke served as a political appointee in the Obama administration, working for the U.S. Agency for International Development. USAID has been destroyed, Schwenke stated, and with it, the aid that goes out to LGBTQIA people around the world. Some of that aid is literally there to keep them alive. The women, the children, the men who have AIDS, they will not get their medication. They will die. And this administration is okay with that policy. They are now deciding how to deny visas to people who want to come to World Pride here in Washington, D.C., Schwenke continued. They do not want transgender people coming to Washington, and they do not want transgender people coming to Los Angeles as athletes or even as spectators for the Olympics in 2028. They are working on that now. How to keep trans people out of America, even as visitors. D.C. resident Emmett Livingstone spoke about the need for resistance and noncompliance. Trump is not a king. Elon is not our president, Livingston declared. I call on all of you to resist in any way you can, big or small. Be the glitter they cannot get rid of, and never let anyone dull your shine. In other news, Chris Bartlett, the executive director of William Way LGBT Community Center, will be leaving the role this summer after almost 15 years in the position. My mission in life has been to support, build, and facilitate LGBTQ communities in the Delaware Valley, said Bartlett, who was raised in Philadelphia. I have a great love for the city. The HIV/AIDS epidemic turned Bartlett into an activist. After returning from Oxford University, where he received his master's degree, he joined ACT UP and developed an intersectional approach to advocacy. I was really blessed, both in ACT UP Philadelphia and more broadly in Philadelphia, to have this group of older queer people who showed me a path for a life of doing work in our communities, he said. As a young person, there weren't many gay jobs. He found opportunities as an advocate, supporting the work of HIV/AIDS activists who were his mentors, then served as the director of Safeguards, Gay Men's Health Project, an HIV prevention organization that later became the AIDS Information Network from 1991 to 2001. At the time, I thought, oh my God, they're going to pay me to do this thing that I love to do so much? Bartlett said about that first big role. He helped broaden the scope of the organization's approach to LGBTQ plus health and wellness, retooling programs to focus additionally on nutrition, recovery and sobriety, aging, and more. And finally, we offered this story about a new outreach process from the U.S. Department of Education, and this is not good news for the LGBTQ plus community nor schools. The Trump administration's weaponization of the Education Department continued apace on Thursday with the debut of what some are calling a snitch line, a website inviting parents, students, and school staff to report illegal discriminatory practices at institutions of learning. The Department of Education will utilize community submissions to identify potential areas for investigation, the department notes. The website was introduced in a press release by Moms for Liberty, the group behind efforts to purge LGBTQ plus content from school libraries, and apparently a new partner in the Department of Education's crackdown on school systems not falling in line with Trump's DEI and gender ideology executive diktats. For years, parents have been begging schools to focus on teaching their kids practical skills like reading, writing, and math, instead of pushing critical theory, rogue sex education, and divisive ideologies. But their concerns have been brushed off. mocked or shut down entirely, said Tiffany Justice, a co-founder of the group, which has been labeled an anti-LGBTQ plus extremist group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Parents, now is the time that you share the receipts of the betrayal that has happened in our public schools. This webpage demonstrates that President Trump's Department of Education is putting power back in the hands of parents, Justice added. Ironically, Moms for Liberty, a group that has advocated for local control over schools, is now complicit in handing that power back to the federal government. Critics were aghast at the call for colleagues and kids to anonymously rat out anyone not falling in line with the right-wing ideology Trump is imposing from Washington. I believe Hitler had a program like this, wrote Michael E. Mann, a scientist, author, and director for the Penn Center for Science, Sustainability, and the Media. And the regime moves the coup forward. That's the news at this hour. Follow our Blue Sky page for further news stories throughout the day. Be sure to download the Live 365 app to take PEP Radio with you wherever you go. If you're watching our news video on YouTube, click the subscribe button, please. Now, back to more music on PEP Radio.